Come on.
She is considered the midwife for the mind. Joan Randall is a publisher. She's an international speaker. She is an amazing woman, multiple best selling author. And she's our guest tonight on Sisters of Wellness, where our goal is to inspire and live out that scripture in Titus that says that older women are to teach younger women. And when I looked in the mirror one day, I said, I think I'm supposed to be teaching. Let me do that and help inspire others to do it. That's what we're doing tonight on Sisters of Wellness. I do hope that you will stay with us. We will be right back. Sisters of Wellness is a program that was birthed. Let me tell you, Joan, it came from my memory of my mother and the women of our little country church, Marshall Chapel Church of God in Meaden, Tennessee. Every second Sunday, those women got together, they ate, they fellowshiped, and they talked to each other and they taught each other. So, Joan, Randall, thank you so much for being a part of this mission to reach out, to touch, to educate, to inspire. And you're a midwife. I was like, when I saw that, I was like,
Uh,
a midwife? You called yourself the author's midwife,
yeah.
but you really
Ac-
are a midwife for the mind.
I love that. Thank you for giving me that part of the title. I love it. And the author's midwife came from an author a few years ago who booked a consultation, and we were going through the idea of her book. And as I listened to her, I always ask for the Holy Spirit to give me the download. And so as I listened to her, I thought there was something missing that she was not thinking about including in her book. And I just said, I think this would be a better way, or think about this way of changing the book. And I just started rolling ideas off. And she was just like, oh, how do you know? How do you know? And that was where it came from. And I have this gift, I'm going to call it a gift. I have this gift of listening and almost like a discerning spirit to hear what somebody is not saying,
And
and
find
then
it.
ask a question that prompts a completely different conversation than what they thought they were going to share with me.
So you were in corporate America.
I was
You were
25
in
years.
25 years in corporate America.
Yes.
And there are, with COVID, there have been a lot of people who've made their exit from corporate America. What inspired you to step out on your own? What gave you the courage to do that?
After 25 years, I felt as if I was at a place where my purpose was not being realized. There was more to me than punching a clock. There was more to me than going in and working based on someone's standard of operational procedures. And I knew I had a story on the inside, and I knew that I had survived some darkness, some really overwhelming adversities. And when I found myself at the pinnacle of my career, an executive vice president in this Fortune 500 company, I knew I needed to share my story of how I got there after the adversities that I had experienced. And because I wasn't being fulfilled anymore, because I've done everything that I wanted to do in that career, I decided it was time to step outside and impact lives to change the outcome, because I knew that my story would be able to do that. And that was why I made the decision to go into the world of entrepreneurship.
So, stepping out doing that after having been in an abusive relationship, so
Hmm.
many women who are in abusive relationships, they're not just, we see the physical, but I know you can testify, the emotional trauma and the beating down that happens for women who are in um, those kind of relationships. How
Hmm.
did you break free of that? Can we talk about that just a little? Because that's a big
Absolutely.
part of the work that you do. Um, and speak to women about that.
Yeah. So I spent 7 years in abusive relationship. I'm a Jamaican, by the way. I met my husband in Jamaica. He brought me to this country. We got married, and had kids, and I ended up finding myself in this horrible situation. And my abuse was physical, it was psychological, it was spiritual, it was financial, it was everything. But there was a point in my life where I did not want to live anymore because I didn't know how to ask for help and I didn't think that I could get out of it. I tried to run away once and he caught me and it was horrible. So I knew that the idea of leaving this man was not even possible. And I almost took my life and the life of my children, but by the grace of God, it didn't happen. And that was the moment that I decided that I needed to save my children. And in order to save my children, I needed to save myself. And so we planned an escape, my children and I, and we ended up leaving in the middle of the night and literally running away from him. But that was a shadow in my life for many, many years. And even as I was climbing the corporate ladder, that shadow kept me because I hated him. I thought about, ways as to how I could have, gotten out of it sooner. I thought about why me? Why did he treat me this way? And the why I could not answer. And because I could not answer the whys, I was obsessed with it. And the obsession prevented me from growing internally. The obsession of why he treated me or why he beat me kept me from growing. Now I was growing in the job, I was climbing the corporate ladder, but when I think about my emotional state, I wasn't growing because I was obsessed with hate. And it wasn't until I was able to acknowledge that it happened, accepted that it happened, understood my role in it. I knew I saw the signs before I got in, but I still did it anyway. And so I had to take account and be accountable for my role in being there and staying that long. And it was in the taking accountability, in the acknowledging, in the accepting that I was able to forgive myself. And once I forgave myself, then I was able to over time forgive him. And that was when the breakthrough happened for me. That was when the mindset shift happened. And that was when I knew that there was more to me than what I allowed my mind to think about and the shame I felt because of domestic violence.
When you said own my role in it,
Hmm.
do you think that is the biggest challenge? Because before you were trying to figure out him, you were trying to figure him out. Then when you came to the place of let me figure Joan out.
Yeah,
So please speak to that to all of us.
yeah.
And in owning, I am 100% responsible for where I am in this moment. Because until we get to that place, then we don't have the power to move to the next phase.
I love that you said that because it was in owning my position. Because as I said before, I saw signs, Pamela. I knew that something wasn't on the up and up. I saw the anger. I saw bouts of screaming. I saw those things that scared me.
Hmm.
But here I am thinking, oh, it's just a little disagreement. It's nothing big, right? But those were telltale signs that I saw, and in my heart, it scared me. But I still went full on into the relationship, anyways. And even when the beating started and the abuse started, there were so many times I wanted to leave or to tell someone, and I did not. I didn't. And so looking back, In hindsight, would I change what I did? Absolutely not, because my children are beautiful and they're gifts to me. But looking back, I knew that I was going into a situation that was not the best thing for me. So I had to own that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to come to the maturity to own that. And that was taking my power back, because until I owned it, I always wondered why. I always pointed the finger at him, but I had to take accountability for my role. I had to acknowledge that, you know what, he beat me. I had to accept that that was the life I lived at once. And I had to try and find, where did I go wrong? And maybe wrong is not the right word, but what did I overlook because I thought I could fix it?
So
And
here you
mhm,
are, beautiful woman, your career going well, but you're going home to this prison, and
well,
the prison in your mind.
so the abuse started before the career started moving,
Okay,
right? So that the moving of the career came after.
okay,
The abuse started like literally when I migrated from the US. I mean, I'm sorry, from Jamaica and came to the US. So the abuse started even before I got the job. And so I would go home from work. I was an associate, just a regular associate at the time, no title or anything. And I would go home, but I was afraid sometimes of going home. And my husband had two personalities, one that he shows the world and one that I see privately, intimately. He was very charismatic and he had so many friends, and he was well known in the community for his charisma. But for me, I saw the ugly side. Now, there are days when things were beautiful, because in abusive relationship, it's not abuse every day. There were periods of love, there were periods of gift, there were periods of vacation. But when it get bad, it was really bad. And so the bad outweigh the good, because the bad was so bad that the good just kind of dissipate. And so after I ran away, it took me years to understand that I had a role to play in it.
yeah.
And once I acknowledged that and accepted it and forgave myself, that was the key. In forgiving myself, I took my power back, because in the pointing the finger at him and blaming him for beating me, he held my power.
Hmm.
I gave it to him. He had it, because I couldn't separate myself from what he did. And because I couldn't separate myself from it, he owned my power. When I
So,
forgave myself, I took my power back.
Joan, they're probably, and Joan is an accomplished international speaker. For those of you who are just joining us, a multi best-selling author, the owner of a publishing company, helping authors bring forth the books they've been pregnant with, and business coaching. But there are people, Joan, who don't understand, how could a woman let anybody hit them? How could that happen to begin with?
You know what? It's not even allow. I don't even know if I would use the word allow, because unless you are in it, you don't understand it. It's not allow. It may be just a situation where you're home one day. For me, it started with me going to the pharmacy and not telling him, and him calling the house and I was not there. And when he came home, I was home. And he said, "Where were you when I called?" I said, "Oh, I went to the pharmacy." And that was when his fist hit my face,
Mhm.
unknown to me, just out of nowhere. And it shocked me. So it's not even allow. It's just that these things happen. And sometimes it just, because there's a burst of anger, or something just, you know, ticked him off, or there's something that made him angry. And so he takes it out on the person that's closest to him.
how did you escape? You said you had to escape. You couldn't just leave. You
Hmm.
had to escape. And
I
when you
just said,
escaped with your two little girls,
hmm.
how were you able to function looking over your shoulder and wondering when he would show up? Or did he show up?
So we were in the New Jersey area, and I had a sister living in Florida. I didn't tell my sister that I was being abused. She's an older sister. I didn't tell her I was being abused, but I called her one day and asked her if I could come and just, spend some vacation time, me and the kids, and she said yes. So that was all I wanted, just was her yes. I
Mhm.
didn't want to tell her my plans because I didn't want anybody knowing what I was doing. And this one day in particular, this one night, we had a fight, and he left the house after the fight. And my oldest said to me, Mommy, we should just go. And I said, We can't go. How am I going to go? Where am I going to go? She said, Well, I have been packing. I said, What do you mean you've been packing? My daughter took me to the attic and she pulled down the stairs and she climbed up in the attic and she threw down 6 black trash bags filled with clothes and toys and shoes and books for her and her sister. My daughter was packing.
How old was she?
At the time, she was 10. She was packing.
What?
So, yes. So when she threw the bag down to me, she said, Now I'm going to pack your stuff. And she went downstairs and she got 4 more black trash bags. And she went into my bedroom and she just took like a nightgown and underwear and stuff and she just started packing in the bag. And she said, Mom, write a letter and leave it on the bed. And
What?
I'm nervous. Yes. And I'm nervous. And I'm like, okay, okay. So I wrote a letter and I am scared to death that he would come back. And I went outside. I opened the garage. I flipped the trunk open. We had 10 black trash bags. We put 6 of the trash bags in the trunk, closed the trunk. I put the other 4 trash bags in the back seat. I put my baby in my older daughter's lap, strapped them up, and I strapped myself in. All 3 of us were in pajamas and we drove out. That's how I left.
What?
My book is called Bags in the Attic.
I was about to say, that's the book.
That's the book.
And so at what point in your life, so you're driving. How is the conversation with your girls? Your rescuer, your
I
10-year-old
I
daughter.
yeah, my 10-year-old daughter, I am crying because I don't know where I'm going, right? But I knew my sister had said I could always come for vacation, right? So I'm driving. I don't know where we're going. So I drove for about 10 miles and it was, I don't know, 1 a.m. in the morning in the height of winter. It was like January 27th and we're in pajamas and I saw a hotel that says Howard Johnson. Howard Johnson. I don't even know Howard Johnson Hotel are around anymore, but it says Howard Johnson, and I pulled in because I knew I had to gather my thoughts as to what's next. Right? I know I couldn't drive to Florida and don't know where I'm going, so I pulled into Howard Johnson. I booked a room. I asked for a room for a couple of nights until I could figure out what was happening. Um, I got the trash bags into the hotel and I just sat there with my daughters. I was crying. My oldest one is saying, Don't cry, mommy, don't cry, mommy. We left, we did it, we did it. And I'm like,
Hmm.
How? She said, Mom, I knew you had to leave. I knew you couldn't stay there forever. And she said,
Hmm.
I know what he was doing to you and I know what he was doing. And you were no longer my mom. She said, like, she didn't recognize me, 10 years old. And we ended up buying some suitcases. And in a couple of days, we bought 3 one-way tickets to Florida, drove the car to Newark Airport, left a car in the parking lot, boarded the plane, and went to Florida.
Phew.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
What does your daughter, as she grew up, How was that related? Did you
Wow.
ever, they ever reconnect with their dad?
Oh no. The younger one did. The younger one did. But I think with my daughter, the older one, the one, that helped me to escape this thing, she became very introverted and for years very quiet, very quiet. I think I leaned on her a little bit too much as she was growing up. And then it came to like a full on, confrontation one day. She said that she wanted to talk to me. And at this time, I was remarried. So this is years after, because it took me 14 years to date again.
Hmm.
And so I was remarried, and she said she wanted to have a conversation with me. And she sat down with me, and she had a black book, and everything was written in that book. Everything. She said I stayed too long. She was angry. She said we took her childhood because she would go to bed at night thinking how she could kill him. And it robbed her of her childhood. Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And for people who think they're staying together for the
For the
children.
children, wrong. Wrong. They are smarter than us. The children are smarter than us. They are resilient. We don't give them enough credit. They are resilient. They know that it is happening. They're seeing it. And every punch or every degrading word that a woman says to a man, because abusers goes both ways, or a man says to a woman, they're saying it to their child, although they're not directing it to them. But they hear it, they feel it, they cry, they suffer. So even if we think we're hiding it in the bedroom, they hear the sound, they hear the loud conversations, they hear the cries, and they are going through it as well. We have to leave for their sake. We have
Not
to
stay
leave
for
so
their
they can
sake.
heal, not stay for their sake. No way. No way. We create so much um, pain when we stay for our children because
Mm.
they want us to go. They want us to, they want peace, they want happiness, they want to be a child, they want to go to school and have the ability to learn, but they can't learn if when they go to school they're tired because they didn't sleep because they heard their mom and their dad fighting.
And
It's
then having to, your daughter having to
yeah.
process, I want to kill this man, to have murder
Yes.
in her heart, trying
Yes.
to protect her mother.
Yep.
And so I think people sometimes don't even understand the implications of putting that kind of burden
Yeah.
on a child who just wants to protect his
Yeah.
or her mom.
Yeah.
So the
Definitely.
book, the
Uh-huh.
book. So
Hmm.
how many books have you written?
So, just before me, just for Joan T. Randall, it's about 9 books.
Wow.
But I am in a lot of collaboration anthologies. So that makes it about 15. And the last 4 or 5 anthologies, I was the visionary author. So I collaborated with other co authors to be a part of the book. But I love all things book. All things book. The pen is the most powerful instrument you can own. There is power in the pen. The pen speaks for me
What makes it so powerful, Joan?
because it creates an indelible period in time that can never be erased.
Mm.
Can never be erased. Once you write that book, once you write that journal, once you write your story, it can never be erased. 200 years from now, you can find it somewhere.
So Joan is the president of Joan T. Randall Enterprise and the
Hmm.
founder of Victorious U Press.
Hmm.
And creator of Intensive Academies, Book to Business and Beyond.
Hmm.
Joan, we could talk about each one of these for the full half hour, but just to touch on each of them quickly for us, your story of overcoming this challenge of domestic abuse and your
Hmm.
daughter. Is your daughter has your daughter written a book? Is she going to write from the perspective of a child?
So in Bags in the Attic, she wrote I think a page and a half of just her perspective. She doesn't want to write anything more than that, but it's in the book.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you think that that would help her in processing all, but she has to do it in her own time, right?
You know what? I think she's at a good place now because therapy and having that discussion with her and I one on one and, really understanding my side because I don't know if I ever told her the why. How did I get there in the first place? And being able to say, I am sorry, forgive me. Because what I realize is that in our conversation, it was the 8-year-old girl talking to me. It was the 10-year-old that was still trying to process. It was
Yes.
the 12-year-old. It was the 14-year-old who I'm leaving her sister with her. She was babysitting her younger sister. It was the 16-year-old. So I realized that the conversation, the 4-hour conversation that my daughter and I had with this black book, it wasn't the adult that was talking to me, it was my baby girl.
Yes.
And so, understanding that, I was able to say, baby, I'm sorry. You are
Yeah.
absolutely right. This was not my intent. And yes, I stayed too long. And that's all she wanted to hear. I didn't want to give excuses. I didn't want to say, but, because the but would have just made it worse. And so I was intentional in creating this dynamic with my daughter to the point where she could come to me open and ask me whatever, and we would have a conversation that was real and honest. And I also think because of my spiritual growth, I was able to have those dialogues with no longer having shame about it, but also understanding that as a result of experiencing domestic violence, as a result of experiencing homelessness, because I did have a period of homelessness when I went to Florida, having experienced those pits and adversities and those moments that were shameful is why I am doing what I'm doing now, is why I'm impacting lives, is why I've helped 250 people become best-selling authors. It is why I have mentees now that I've helped establish business. It's why I've had 50 plus people who I helped to open their own businesses. So had I not been through these fires, I wouldn't have the emotional intelligence to help others who experienced adversities.
And to come through
Yeah.
without the scars that could be there.
Yeah.
Because there was a fourth one in the fire.
Yeah. Amen. Woo. Yes.
There was a fourth one.
Yes.
Jessie Moore is watching from Jackson, Tennessee. She says, "Thank you for sharing your story. Where is your former abuser now?"
I do not know. I
Mm.
think he lives somewhere in New Jersey, but that's all I know.
Does it bother you? Do you think about, I mean, when
No.
did you get to the point that you released the fear of him showing up?
Oh my God. Several years ago. I forgive him.
Yeah.
I love him as a person. He's a child of God. And so I love him as a child of God. Um, and I've forgiven him, and that gives me peace. That's what gives me peace of mind. That's what gives me my power, because what he did to me never broke me, or it broke me for a while, but it didn't. It will never break me forever, and that's the power that I stand on.
So you've done all of these things, including going to Nairobi
Yes,
to start a
it was.
business.
It was the most incredible experience. Um, It changed my life completely, completely changed my life. Standing on the motherland, that's what I call it. Seeing what I saw there, understanding that what I heard about Africa was not what I experienced, blew my mind. I got an opportunity to see where they led slaves into the ship,
Mm,
and they built a restaurant at that port
mm.
owned by a black man, and it made me feel empowered being there, sitting at the
I have
table.
chill bumps
Yes,
thinking
sitting.
about that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I so look forward to someday
Oh
being
my
there.
God. And I sat at a table with, a judge, with um, doctors, with mega church pastors, with council member, and teachers and preachers, and the elite of Nairobi, all black, look like me.
Mm,
I felt
mm,
inspired.
mm.
I'm sitting at the table with millionaires that look like us, and I'm like, this is not what I thought I was coming here to see.
Wow. Oh no, I lost you, Joan. Everybody, don't go away. She'll come back. I promise she'll come back. Oh. Oh, well, listen, let me tell you, if she does not make it back, Joan T. Randall, she's a publisher, um, best selling author, and an incredible story. Her book, Bags from the Attic, I'm going to put in the chat where you can find out more information on her. She has her own publishing company, and she's a recipient of the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate from Cornell University. In addition, she earned a certificate from Howard University and is a certified life coach, public speaker, and domestic violence advocate. Joan T. Randall. It's been a fascinating conversation. If you did not hear the beginning, I certainly encourage you to go back and watch this whole interview. You are going to be so inspired as she shares her story of how she has helped others, but not only that, how she was able to move from a relationship of domestic violence into a relationship of empowerment because of her acceptance that she had the power. She had the power to move her from that place. That's our show for Sisters of Wellness. Thank you all so much for joining us for this interview. And you can rest assured that Joan T. Randall will be back as a guest on this show because I am so inspired by what I heard from her. And I'm honored, truly honored, that you all took a minute to stop by and be a part of our Sisters of Wellness show this evening. I'm taking my peace walk every morning as the countdown to the 100 days. It's a 100-day countdown to the International Day of Peace, which is September 21st. We're having a hybrid event, an online and an in-person event, and it will be the launch of my book, The Art of Forgiveness and Expression of Peace. So tomorrow morning I'll be out walking. Come join me for my peace walk. I will be here Thursday with Dr. Rick Stevenson for the Timbuktu Report, and I'll see you in the morning for my peace walk. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you in the morning. Take care. Bye bye.